We're here, Matt Cardona, you and I hanging out, Wrassle Rap Arena, just two New York guys talking about New York things like regular sized chicken palm and pizza. How are you, my friend?
I am good. Actually, I'm in Orlando now. I don't want to break your heart.
I know.
I left New York. I still got
I,
the 516. I got the 516 tattooed on my leg, so I'm always there.
I really believed back in the day, like if I knew you at an earlier point in our lives, I genuinely believe we would have been close friends because we were into, and we still are into the same
Sure.
legitimately. Like I don't have this monumental toy collection that you have, but like I just got back into collecting certain
Mm.
things. Like I'm collecting now that Motu's origin line because
Yes.
nostalgia is the greatest drug of all. You know what I
Nostalgia
mean?
is in. We have the major wrestling figure podcast, but we're not in the figure business, the wrestling figure business. We're in the nostalgia business. It's just in, and like I love it. I felt like I'm a big kid who never grew up, and now there's so many people appreciating their childhood, which I don't think we need to grow up. And I'm not saying we need to be on the floor and having our fig fed and having like entrances and stories. I'm not saying that, no, but I think it's cool to collect what you want to collect. And it's not the 40-year-old virgin. It's not 2005 where even I was embarrassed to collect. I love that it's accepted now, and we're working on breaking down more barriers. And that sounds ridiculous to say breaking down barriers, but in reality, it's true. I want people to be able to express themselves however they want, whether it be with toys or whatever.
Well, when you look at an older guy collecting action figures, you assume two things, right? You assume they don't get laid or they live with their parents,
Right.
right?
And that's the stigma. 40-year-old virgin. The guy was a virgin with these collectibles on display. That's one hell of a setup. I look at it now like that's pretty damn cool. It's very organized, I wonder how he keeps the dust out. Like I want to ask this guy questions.
Right. See, to me, I never knew this whole entire world.
Sure.
I had the old Jack specifics and I had the Hasbros that I beat it when I was a kid. The He-Mans were destroyed, the Ninja Turtles, the Ghostbusters.
Right.
So now that all of this stuff is being retroed, I'm like, okay, I don't have to go for hundreds of thousands of dollars and be a completist for the original. I mean, I would love to get a Hasbro run, but that's really, really pricey. And I kind of blame you and Myers for really boosting up that market. But yeah, there is that stigma, and it's like, no, don't have that stigma. Like I want to know, are there special cases? Are there, like, do I go acrylic? Do I go like plastic? Like what do I do? So one of my gurus in this whole collecting thing is a mutual friend of ours, Joe Shoes.
Yes.
And so Shoes got me back into the whole collecting thing. And I ask him now, I'm like, Shoes, I'm on the fence. Do I get the Super 7 Silver Hawks, or do I wait till they put out a metallic version, or is it going to be serious FOMO? And at first Shoes was like, oh, I'm not getting them. I'll wait till they re-released them in the metallic silvers. And then all of a sudden I get a text message like a day later, and Shoes like, I caved. I bought them. I bought the entire line.
FOMO is real, especially with me. My entire garage is basically FOMO. It's stuff that I don't have real estate for in my toy room or my office. And I'm afraid if I skip it, I'm going to want it eventually and the value will spike. So my garage is basically like extra stuff and some pretty rare things, just things I don't have the real estate for right now.
Like, what's the most rarest piece you have? And I call toys pieces.
Sure. I have this, I would have to say this Hasbro Rhythm and Blues Greg the Hammer Valentine. It was never released. It was in, I believe it's like a 90 or 91 Toys R Us ad that's inside a WWF magazine. I know the Rockers are on the cover. I had the magazine. So 90 or 91. You flip open the cover. It's the new tag teams coming to Toys R Us. It's Demolition, Rockers, Bushwhackers, and Rhythm and Blues. This is obviously before the internet. I'm a little kid, 6 years old, 7 years old. I have my parents taking me to all these Toys R Us stores. Don't find Rhythm and Blues. You get the Bushwhackers, you get the Rockers, you get Demolition, but you don't get Rhythm and Blues. Eventually, Honky Tonk Man is released by himself. Greg is released by himself, but with the blonde hair, and you just think you don't have him because he's even on the back of the boxes. They list like Rhythm and Blues. It's not till years later, because of like toy magazines and the internet, you find out it never came out. And that's pretty common in action figure lines. Things are on like the back of the box or in magazines, and they just never come out. Unreleased is what they call. And a couple years ago, through all these like Facebook groups that I'm on, like, yes, you can find these things on eBay, but most of the things I find are through like toy dealers or these Facebook groups. And some ex Hasbro employee, he posted this bird's eye view of this box he found in his garage, and like a hawk, I could see Greg's leg. Long story short, I had to buy the entire collection from this guy with a lot of other unreleased things or pre-production pieces. And I was able to flip everything else, make money, and keep the pieces I wanted.
Wow, dude, that's a hustle and a half, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't buy to sell. I buy things for me. I let them breathe. I open them up. I really don't care about value. Yes, it's nice to know some of the things I have value. That's great. But I don't buy things to sell. But in a situation like that, it's like, listen, I know nothing about like the stock market or something like that. I know about the figure market. I know if I buy this, I keep this, I flip this, I'll make this, So that's what I did.
So you actually open up everything, like you don't have anything originally carded, or no, you have certain things?
Very, 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 very rare do I keep something in the package. I don't think it's meant to be displayed that way. I also have thousands and thousands of figures on display, and it's impossible to display them all if they're all in the package. Like for instance, if there's like this crazy rare Ultimate Warrior, like when Jax signed the Ultimate Warrior in like the mid to early 2000s, he was smart enough, Ultimate Warrior, it's like, okay, you can sign me, whatever. You can mass produce my figures, send them to Toys R Us, but I want exclusives just for me. So he would get very, very limited runs and sell them on his own. So when I've bought those, I'm not going to open that. That's ridiculous. Like, I'm not taking like a $5,000 figure and letting it breathe,
Right. Right. Yeah. See, to me, I'm not ready to go that far. I think to me, the most I would probably spend would be like anywhere from maybe $500 to $1,000 if I had the capital running around.
That's how I was for the longest time. And like the pre-production game, I never got into. I looked as an outsider on the message boards. I'd always look and appreciate it. But I never got involved until there was a Macho Man in the Hasbro's. If you remember, he's had orange trunks. And the one I have is from the JCPenney Christmas catalog in green trunks, hand painted, again, unreleased. And when I bought that, it was about like $5,000. And that's when like, I just felt like I needed more when I tracked down that Greg and stuff like that.
It's really addicting once you think about it, because it's like the thrill and hunt of the chase more than anything else. Yeah, I think there's this sense of accomplishment when you get this piece and you hunt down for this relic, this artifact, this virtual unknown thing that the world has never seen, but you have it and you found it. You're like, Indiana Jones, and like,
yeah,
like, and you find it, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, that was cool. Now I need to rechase that high again. What's the next exclusive piece? I remember I was editing an episode of Talking Shop, and you were talking about how there's a Miss Elizabeth figure, but she's like naked or something.
Yes. Yeah. So that was something that, like I said, I'm into like the pre-production pieces, and I was buying a bunch of stuff from an ex LJN employee, the company that was before Hasbro, like the big rubber guys. And he's like, listen, I have this naked Miss Elizabeth. The sculptors made a couple in-house as a joke, obviously not meant for sale. And I bought it for a couple $1,000s, and then I got it. Like, what am I going to do with it? I had it on display, but like all the way in the back. So I had figures covering it. Like I knew Macho Man would be pissed if he knew I had that, especially on display. And, the Macho Man's my favorite. So for our YouTube channel, we did a history of the LJNs. We took out every single figure that we had, every prototype, and we explained them, and we showed off that naked Elizabeth, but we blurred it. We had some respect, but then another high-end collector contacted me, asked me what my price was. I said, it's not for sale. He kept asking. I said, okay, make me an offer I can't refuse. And he made me an offer. It was pretty close to not refuse this. It jack it up a couple more $1,000, and I sold it. So yeah, so money talks, baby.
I love it, man. I love it. I love the fact that you turn this passion that you had as a kid and you were able to now do it when you had a little bit more money and you had a little bit more time on your hands to really cultivate and do what you wanted to do. Um, does it bug you out now that people go to you as like this toy guru where it's like if I have an action figure question, I'm going to go to like, the Major Brothers for this
Yeah.
this in-depth deep dive thing because I always found you and Brian extremely fascinating in the sense that you were always true to yourselves and you were never we're going to do this because this is cool, and you always knew like the platforms in which you had, and okay, now how can I grow myself as this entity, as I'm this former WWE superstar, but you know, I'm not really on TV, and it's taken a while. I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna use the internet really early on to my advantage, but I'm always
Mm.
gonna do like other things to push the bounds of my creativity upwards and onwards. And like wrestler vlogging wasn't really a thing. You were one of the first to do it.
Right.
Talking about and collecting action figures, you and one of your best friends were doing it before it became the in thing, but then you guys created this vast network because of it, and
Right.
now it's that thing. Do you like what's the next thing for Matt Cardona in terms of keeping his finger on the pulse of something next? Because every time you do it, you have a Midas touch. Is it like this weird foresight, or do you just throw it on the wall and expect it to stick, or are you just being like, I just want to do what I want to do and I'm going to try it, and if it works it works, if it doesn't, hey, it is what it is?
I mean, honestly, like that's the one, because I'm just a very creative person, and I'm very grateful for the things I've accomplished in my life and career, but I'm not someone who likes to just sit still and not progress and move forward. So when I was in WWE and I started the YouTube show, it was because I wanted more, and I knew I needed to push the envelope. And I wasn't the first person on social media. I wasn't the first person with a web show, but I was the first person to do it by himself, to do his own web show, to not have like WWE edit it and write it, and advertise it. And I think I was one of the first people who said like, okay, like I have this Twitter account at Zack Ryder, and I have me, Matt Cardona. How can I blend those two? And that's what I did with the social media and the YouTube show. Is that, if you were watching Raw, I'm just the guy who loses in 3 minutes if I'm even on. But there was so much more to me, whether it be the Star Wars love or just the love of pro wrestling or the figure love or the boy band, whatever it was. And I was just trying to get people who were attracted to one piece of me, and built this, I don't know, that this fan base up out of nothing. It wasn't supposed to happen, right? And to answer your question, I just want to try, and it might not work. I'm not predicting the future. I don't know what's going to be the next big thing. I don't know, so many of the things I try with the Major Wrestling podcast aren't a hit, but I just want the opportunity to try. And I just love, having that control, that creative liberty and that creative freedom.
Well, essentially, WWE wasn't really even hip to the game of YouTube at its infancy when you were doing the Long Island stories. You know what I mean? Like
No,
you
I
were
mean, their YouTube channel was just like clips of Raw and SmackDown. They had no original content, nothing. So
that's what I'm
my
saying.
my YouTube show was beating everything that they were putting up there every week. I think NXT was airing, believe it or not, just on YouTube, or maybe it was just WWE.com, whatever. And my YouTube show was beating it. It's because they were trying to, drive people to WWE.com. Listen, WWE.com is not cool. It's not cool to go to WWE.com and just watch stuff. It's cool if you're on YouTube, you watch some wrestling, you watch whatever, that's, yeah. I'm not saying I was like, I'm like, oh, I have this great vision, I have this to be this YouTube star. I just wanted to create buzz and get noticed. And it just so happened to be through YouTube.
Well, but YouTube, being a YouTube star wasn't even a thing then either. I mean,
Right.
this was to me, and this is looking back at it from the now versus then, what you really were doing was experimental. Is kind of was like how when Real World, like the first 5 seasons of the Real World were on MTV, it was still new and experimental. And you're like,
Right.
well, we're going to figure this out. But people still watched because you kind of peeled back that fourth wall. Like you broke the fourth wall.
Sure.
You were showing people, hey, I'm going to make fun of myself. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it might be self-deprecating. I might come on and make a joke and be like, I lost this week, or my friends are going to come on and it's going to be Ziggler clowning me or whatever, but it's always going to go back around. At the heart of it is, this is who I am. This is what I do. And I want to show you my art. If we could say that in a non-pretentious term, because everybody says my art now, and this is my art, and this is my thing. But I think back then what you really were doing was like a performance piece, but you were starting to show like, hey, it's okay to have personality outside of the gimmick, but you were always still true to the gimmick. And
Right.
I remember you would bring in your world, Long Island, your dad, the Big O. So I'm like, this is cool, man, because it's like now you're seeing a completely different side of somebody, like you said, that loses in 3 minutes.
Right. And like you said, the self-deprecating humor, if I'm poking fun at myself for losing all the time, or if I say I'm doing all the jobs, but instead of complaining that I'm losing, you see me as like a plumber or like an underwear model. If I'm saying those things, you can't say, I mean, you can say those things to me, but they're not insulting because I'm already saying them. So what are you going to say? You're not on TV. I know, I just said that. You lose all the time. I know, I just said that. So it's hard to like hate somebody and make fun of somebody who's doing it already to themselves.
So now, like moving forward with these platforms, what's the difference of using them now versus using them then?
I feel like there was a lot more genuine interaction back then. So now, I have whatever, almost 2 million followers on Instagram. If I post something, if most of the comments are like fake, like porn star girls or fake people trying to like scam people out of money, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's such this weird world of like who's real, who's fake, so many bots. And I think, I think people are just so obsessed with that number. Like, oh, he has so-and-so followers. I don't really think it matters. You know what I'm saying? Because trust me, if 2 million people listen to the major wrestling favorite podcast every week, I'd be rich. You know what I'm saying? They're not. It's not like how I think back in the day, if you said something, people would actually, if they were following you, they generally were interested in you and they would kind of do what you told them to do. Now it's not like that. Now it's you put something out there, like the percentage of people who are actually doing or watching it, it's like almost nothing.
Right. I've learned that working with the people that I've been working with, Renee, Gals and Anderson, Graves and Mella, because I'm working on their YouTube channels as well as their audio
Right.
stuff. And it was a completely foreign world to me because I never really operated in a video space before this. But kind of Joe Rogan changed the game in terms of how you're supposed to present your podcast, with a video element to it, because he
Right.
filmed everything and his podcast was what this was, and then you get a completely different version of this thing. And shows like what you do and Renee and Good Brothers and Corey and Carmella, like what you guys do is so premier audio wise that now there's a completely different medium to the show, where it gets it's a new set of like it gets a new set of life, where the best way to put it is you see more of the subtle nuance of a look or a gesture, or
Right.
whatever, that you're not seeing when you hear it. So there's a completely different intimacy to that. And even I'm, like I said before, I made the joke as we opened up, I'm 15 years too late doing a YouTube channel for this podcast. But I don't look at it as I need to get to X amount of numbers. I need 100,000 subscribers. Listen, would that be great? Yeah, I would love
Sure.
that. But
Right.
I want it to be more of a highlight reel to go, hey, you're going to see me have a conversation with Matt Cardona, and hopefully it's something that's completely different from what Matt Cardona gives you on his personal channel and from what other interviewers ask Matt Cardona. So like that's the thing. You want to go and check this out. It's its own completely like different little slice of pizza in its own completely different like universe. Like
Yeah. And
enjoy
I
it.
think there's so much, platforms and so many entertaining people to go around where I don't necessarily think anybody's each other's competition. There's so much time, there's so much content. Like people just want more content. And like my podcast versus my YouTube channel, there's people who listen to the podcast who don't watch the YouTube channel and vice versa. And like, not all the content is the same. So we do and all these like blogs on our YouTube channel. We don't like put that on our podcasts. And then, people like, oh, I love your YouTube channel. Like, did you know we're mostly a podcast? Like it's crazy. And also, back in the day with my old YouTube channel, minutes was the sweet spot. If you went like 3 to 5, now I feel like people want to consume these long form interviews, or if we go on like 45-minute fig hunts, because they're watching it, whether I don't know, they're taking a dump, they're doing cardio, because now you can take whatever's on your phone, put it on your television. It's a different world.
And to me, I think that's the thing too, where you're not just doing one specific style of content. It's indicative to several different things. So you kind of don't have the burnout where it's like, okay, these guys have a podcast. This is what they're going to do. Okay, cool. Oh, they have a Patreon. So now we're going to get something different from that. Oh, and then Matt has his own YouTube channel. Okay, so now I want to watch that. I think what, happened during the pandemic was everybody's home. There's only so many times you can watch something on Netflix, you know what I mean? Or on Disney Plus. So now it's like, well, what do we do? Oh, let's create content. Or, well, I really don't want to create the content. I don't know how to create the content, but I'm going to watch this person because I like what they do. So now you're getting a longer time spent watching or a time spent listening. And that's when now you really start to build up. And I noticed that there was this boom with what you guys have done, and I was like, this is really cool. They're really taking like a turn and now creating something that's way above and beyond what a podcast is supposed to be. Like, there's live shows, there's fig hunts.
Yes.
I mean, you guys are very brand conscientious and the brand is very strong, but you guys are doing stuff that's rather unique and insulated within this world that you're creating. Like, essentially you're creating this world and now other people who are watching it want to be part of that world. That's got to be trippy.
Yeah, it's great. And I hate using the term like my brand, but it really has become a brand more than a podcast, because the amount of money we actually make from the 3-hour a week podcast, very minimal with the ad. Because like we're like a niche of a niche of a niche. Like you need to love wrestling figures, love wrestling podcasts. Like you need to love all those things. But if you're in that small category, you're in. You know what I'm saying? You can't I don't think you can casually like wrestling figures enough to display them in your house. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're in, you're in. So our fan base is so rabid where we've turned the what was a 45-minute show into a 3-hour show, into spin-offs, into live shows, into merchandise, into our own action figure line. So now we have trading. It's like we've gotten into so many different things besides the actual, like Monday night at 8, we're going to record for 3 hours. It's a 24/7 job.
Well, what you're doing is you're selling culture. I genuinely believe that there is a culture and a language all into everything within the world of whatever people are interested in. And there is a culture and a language for action figures. There's a culture and a language for selling vintage t-shirts, classic cars, watches, whatever. There is a fandom for it. But you're creating this world, you're selling this culture, and that's what it is. And not everybody can do that. Like I have watched a ton of toy YouTube videos because I want to know, like, what is the history of Motu classics, or I want to know old school Hasbro stuff. Like, what's the difference in like the carded stuff compared to the non-carded stuff? Where does one find that really special Kamala instead of the stars you get the moon belly?
Right.
What about the Dusty Rhodes figure? Like, so to me, the more stuff I'm able to feed and grow my knowledge of, all right, the more I can hang and have a conversation with you and be like, wow, I'm really going to learn something. So to me, it's interesting. Does it become like this thing where you feel, okay, am I Matt the wrestler, or am I Matt the YouTuber, the podcaster, the figure guy? Like, is it difficult to stretch yourself out to have as many tentacles as you do? And like, you feel like maybe one thing gets lost in the sauce sometimes. Like, oh, well, maybe
I don't want to say it's hard to juggle everything, but it's fun to juggle everything. I love that I'm able to do so many different things. Now right now I have 3 podcasts, which is crazy. I have a podcast about wrestling figures, a podcast about my old YouTube show, which is really just like the journey of how to, and if I can just motivate one person to bet on themselves and take a chance on themselves, and then this new show is worth it. It's not like oh, look what I did 10 years ago show. Yes, we talk about that. We talk about the backstage BS. We talk about that. Yes. But the MC True Long Island story is, if I can get one person to bet on themselves and change their life, then it's worth it. And then I have a podcast about theme parks, so it's all 3 things that I love that don't necessarily, they shouldn't be in the same universe. But I feel like now we're trying to break down those barriers, like I said, where it doesn't matter what you like or whatever you're passionate about, go for it. And I'm not saying you need to create your own business around it, but like, you shouldn't be afraid to be passionate about it. And whether it be, collecting toys or going to theme parks or whatever it is, I feel like the time now to be authentic, it's like, I think authenticity is key, and people can see through people know, when I'm doing a YouTube video or a podcast or an interview, I'm not pretending. Like, listen, I say I'm the Michael Jordan of wrestling figure collecting. I don't think I have the best wrestling figure collection. I don't think anyone has a better collection than anybody, but I think you can tell that my passion is authentic and that like I'm genuinely excited about this stuff, and like that stuff can't be faked. And I think people see through the bullshit now.
And that's what I like, and that's what I respect about you. Even 10 years ago, when you were doing a YouTube show that was really starting to make waves, there was always this authenticity and this transparency of genuine. And like, again, I'm a kid from Staten Island, at the time watching this, and you're a kid from Long Island watching this, and it's like, dudes like us from where we're from really don't grow up and become professional wrestlers or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you get into a union, you work that union, and then you die. Like, you know what I mean? You get married and you get a house with a PVC fence, so that way you block off the neighbors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, to sit there and to see somebody finally think outside the box and take the chance on themselves to do it was always really cool to me. And I've never been one of those cats to be into the backstage or the politics. Even when I was working for New York, I was never really one of those guys that was like, tell me about everything. Like, I was more like, I want to hear about you. Tell me your story. And the fact that I was able to develop podcasts for the WWE at the time, I was like, all right, I want to know more stories. Who can do what? What can we do? Granted, you're trying to, I feel like it felt like the myth of Sisyphus, where I'm pushing a boulder up a hill and it just keeps on rolling down because of certain standards and practices there. Like, we all know that. But like, ultimately, you learn these people are cool. Here's why they're cool. Everybody has a story to tell. It's just a matter of time on how they can figure out to do it. And I think like you, Brian, Swoggle, and Mark, like, it was lightning in a bottle, and it was all you guys together. And once you unleashed that into the world, you really like created some magic, and it's really, really dope to see, bro. Like, I genuinely enjoy everything that you guys do, man, for real. And I was telling Brian that before I smacked up our rental car. But I genuinely enjoy what you guys do. So much so now that you guys are, you saying, we're not a business, but you kind of are, because now you're starting to create action figures of professional wrestlers that may not never get one. Like, case in point, we're getting a Danhausen figure. I love Danhausen.
Yeah.
I'm buying that when it comes out, because I want to support him and I want to support what you guys do. And I think it would just be a cool thing. You're getting a bag of money, you're getting teeth. I mean, like, you're getting cool accessories with a figure that you may never have ever have gotten. So like, let's talk about that as well. Have you partnered up with Zombie Sailor Toys, or is it like your own thing?
Yeah. So Zombie Sailor is somebody that I met before the podcast. I met him through Instagram. He was selling Case Fresh Series 1 Hasbros. And by Case Fresh, I mean like the shipping case that was sent to the stores in 1990. He still had them. He found them sealed.
Wow.
He does this with a lot of toy lines. He finds people who had toy stores in the early 90s, and this is just overstock and whatever. They went out of business and just have this warehouse or this garage or this storage unit full. And he travels around the country. He buys them up, so whether it be luckily for me, it was WF Hasbro's, but he's had Beetlejuice, American Gladiators, so I met him through getting those Hasbro's, and I kept in contact with him. And then when we started the podcast, we were trying to like, oh, let's try some merchandise, right? And I knew Zombie Sailor. He's like, why don't we try these little like enamel pins? And I'm like, at first I was like, pins? Who the fuck wants pins? But it turns into like one of the biggest things for us. Like we do like low run pins, like limited edition, but they always sell out, and like that's our thing. And this Heels and Faces line, which is based off the Hasbro's, that's actually all him. We have nothing invested in that besides that we're in series 1. But of course, we're going to support our buddy. And whether it's our buddy or not, we're going to support somebody taking a chance, betting on themselves, everything I preach, creating his own opportunity, creating his own toy line. And we've made action figures through Ringside Collectibles. But now, I don't know how much I could say now because we haven't done it publicly, but we're making our own wrestling figures. Like there's no boss. We're the boss. We're making the lineups. We're putting all the money down. We're taking all the risks, but we're going to hopefully get all those rewards. And those are going to hopefully debut by the end of 2021. But it's cool that we have the Zombie Sailor figures. We have the Ringside Collectibles figures. We have Super 7 figures. We have the Pro Wrestling Tees Micro Brawlers. All these things that we've gotten since we left WWE. When we worked for WWE, we had a podcast, basically free advertisement for Mattel. We were on the Mattel Elite Squad, and we couldn't get a figure, so it is what it is.
Looking at it now though, you're creating this stuff that you want, and what goes into the whole toy making process, because I remember Brian was having a conversation with the Good Brothers, and they were talking about like, this is, because they get figures, those guys, but they're not avid collectors like how
Right.
you and Brian are. So like to see like, the, I don't know, 45 parts of articulation and the swappable heads and, the accessories, to me, like toys have really stepped up, specifically like wrestling action figures, which are these collectible things. So now what goes into the process of making your own? How long does this take? What type of scale are you doing? Are you doing more Hasbro-y? Is it going to be like a Mattel kind of thing? Or is it like, could it be a combo of both? Are we going straight LJN where they look like this? Like, where are we? Like, what are we doing with it?
So I'll say this. So I've gone on record by saying Mattel makes the best wrestling figures of all time. And they've been around the longest. They've the best library, the best roster, if you will. And it's hard to compete with that line of articulation. Now, Super 7 has done it, and the Good Brothers are in that line. We're in that line. And the best part about it, like when Mattel makes an action figure of you, they make it, and that's it. If your logo is incorrect, if you're missing something on your boot, that's it. But now, being involved in the creative process with Super 7 sends me something. My wrist tape needs to be a little longer. I'm there. They send me the prototype, and I literally have the prototype. I take the real gear, I lay it on the floor, and I'm taking the figure, looking at the gear, taking the figure, looking at the. I want these to be the most detailed wrestling figures of all time, with no debate.
That's cool, man. I love the detail and the fine nuance of certain things.
Right. I want the button on my jacket to be the right color. Everything like that. And and Zombie Sailor, he's got the Hasbro style line. I'm not going to say what line we're doing, but it is paying, tribute to an old school line that I think is overlooked. And when people see them, they're going to go, wow, these are pretty damn cool. Will they be the most, let's just say this, they don't have any points of articulation. I'll just say that.
Okay. So now I'm starting to think, and could they be, and again, you can tell all the way off with this one, but I'm really believing that they could be the old Remco AWA types where,
well, like, we already have those through Ringside Collectibles.
Let's see, what don't you guys have? Like, that's the thing. Like, that's what's boggling my mind. Yeah. It was like, all right, so what do you do? How do you create something that is already there? Like, so now,
for instance, so like we just made wrestling buddies, like the ones, like, remember the ones from the early 90s? So many companies have tried to mimic those, but they haven't done it, because back in the day, toys were just like they were these giant play sets, whether it be the Ghostbuster Firehouse or, Castle Grayskull or the Turtle Sewer, but it took up so much real estate in a toy aisle. And now toy stores, now there is no real toy stores like Walmart, Target, right? So they're hesitant to take up a big item. So a wrestling buddy, if you remember those, they were these giant, like rectangle, odd shaped boxes. So like, that's why no company wants to touch it, because it's these giant boxes that they have to ship. It can take up so much shelf space. So we have decided, obviously we're not in stores, but we figured out that you could take these wrestling buddies and vacuum seal them so they're flat. So we get them and we're shipping them. And then since they're flat, we can fold them up, put them in like cheap little baggies or small boxes, and then when you get it open, you zip or you like zip that bag open, and then it just puffs up. And those buddies we have designed with because when we first started this podcast, we'd get like art, some artists would make something. Oh, that's cool. You want to make us a t-shirt? Blah, blah, blah. Thanks. We'll shout you out on social media, whatever. But now we've gotten to a point where like these guys are on our payroll now, so we're paying these guys. Listen, they're not getting rich off it. What I'm saying? We're not there yet. But it's great to be able to give back to these people who have helped us. So right. Like these wrestling buddies, we have one guy who designs them, then one guy who like talks to the people in China, the factory. And now we have a guy, it's actually that same guy who ships them out for us. So in a sense, it is a real business. I mean, we have company credit cards.
Hey, listen, brother, if there's an LLC, man, you definitely
there is. There is an LLC. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I like that figure backs there of you dressed up as the $1 Million Man.
Oh, yeah. That's the $1,000 broski.
Now, I don't know if it's the same dude, but I found him on Instagram, and he would make like the small scale Hasbro's into like a giant size.
Yeah, it's probably the same guy. Those are called 2-ups.
Okay.
So what those were is back in like the early 90s, they didn't use computers to design these figures. It was all hand drawn, believe it or not. And then they would make these 2-up figures. They say 2-up because it's double the size of a figure. And that's where they get the detailing and the paint detailing. And then they would shrink it down. So those 2-ups were meant to be destroyed. They weren't meant to be sold or anything like that. But I have a couple of them in my collection that I've gotten from ex-employees. Like I had that Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Rhythm Blues, I have as a 2-up as well. I have a Ultimate Warrior 2-up, a Hulk Hogan 2-up, a Macho Man 2-up. And these are like just giant versions of those figures. And then that guy on Instagram has learned how to, with like 3D printing, to recreate them, which I think is cool. But you got to be, if people just know they're customs, that's great. I don't want anyone to get fooled and think these are like the $5,000 figures.
And that's the scary part, broski, where it's like, where some people, where they're not on the level and they're going to be like, hey, retro from the factory, 2-ups.
Sure.
But this guy was cool. And I have to buy a couple of them, but I have to have more real estate because I don't have the real estate for it. And the Motu is
those blank walls behind you. Get some shelves back there, baby.
Well, unfortunately, Daddy, this is not my house. I'm in mommy and daddy's crib. Okay. So it's like, so I can only like bring so much stuff here.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, all right, I don't want to really like do anything, but I got some cool stuff. I actually have, I don't know if I have it. I don't know where it is here, but I found when I was cleaning out the garage for them, I found at ECW, I went to an ECW show and in Staten Island in like the fun, what was it? Was it the Fun Bubble or was it? It was somewhere. It was like one show where they did the Full Out Brawl. I was there for that. Then they did another show where they came back and everything was peace and love. And I have a autographed chair like from the venue. And I was telling Brian about it, and Brian's like, "Did everybody sign it?" I go, "I got a couple of people." Brian's like, "Well, what are you waiting for?" And I'm like, "Oh, I gotta get it signed." So that's the mission. So I'm into like finding like oddball things like that and collecting like that. So to find these like really cool 2-up pieces, I really enjoy those. So did it bug you out when you first became an action figure? You go, I collect all these, but now like I'm one of them now.
Oh, it was amazing. And it doesn't get old, like luckily I've had like 20 or so figures. I've had like, little like thumb wrestlers, little like talking wrestling buddy things. And it's cool every single time. It just doesn't get old because I think anybody who's a wrestler thinks it's cool when they get a figure, whether you collect or not. but it was even cooler for me because I was a big collector at the time and still am, so that's why it's cool for me every single time. And now to be involved in the process and actually see an idea start like from like my head all the way to completion, like that's the best.
Like, how many, if you can count, do you know off the top of your head how many Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona
Ooh,
figures there
I have
are
them
in
on
the
display
universe?
here. Let's see. I would say like maybe like 30 or so, give or take. I'm not
That's
gonna sit
cool.
here and go 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right,
5.
right, right.
Yeah, but
But
a
see,
good amount.
right, but you were also slick though too, because you knew the game where if I got new gear, they would have to make a new figure.
Yeah, and listen, I was very, I was never like a John Cena level, obviously, who gets like 30 in a year. You know what I'm saying? But I'm very fortunate enough that I've gotten so many. There's some people who never got an action figure or just got one. So I've been fortunate to get a couple, and it's all like different like incarnations of my career. So it's special when it's all said and done. I can look back and have like a version from every era, if you will.
I got to tell you, man, like, you look really, really relaxed, and I don't really know you too well, and we're just like starting to get cool, and like I really like, kicked it with you when we were in Tampa for TNS
Yeah.
live, briefly before the show started. But I got to tell you, man, you look really, really comfortable, and more so now than ever in your own skin, being Matt Cardona, and really taking on like your career itself, where you knew, okay, I don't have to be at this place anymore. Like, there's ways to make money, there's ways to get myself over, there's ways to change. Do you feel right now, because you are a veteran, you've been at this for a very long time, do you feel that there is anything left to prove to yourself?
Left to prove? It's a loaded question because I'm definitely not like satisfied with what I've accomplished, but at the same time, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. I'm not, this isn't my honky tonk man indie tour where I'm just giving everybody the hits. I'm ready to just keep going and try new things, whether it be the GCW stuff or Impact or random indies. So I'm taking this opportunity to try everything and show different sides of me. And, with the GCW stuff, like I'm not turning heel. I'm just being me in that environment. And if that makes me a heel, then so be it. I love the GCW universe, but they don't love me, and that's okay.
So what about GCW made you go, this is where? Because I've commentated for them. I've been lucky to commentate for them, and big shout outs to Brett for allowing me to do that, giving me the opportunity. But what about GCW? Because I can talk about my love for GCW all day, but I want to hear it from an outside worker's perspective who doesn't necessarily paint within that world.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
you're not painting that picture.
sure, like that ultra violent death match style. It is not my style. I am not a fan of it. Watching the Nick Gage Dark Side of the Ring, like I had to turn away. Like it's not for me, but I respect it. I respect it. I believe wrestling is like, ice cream. There's different flavors of ice cream, different flavors and styles of wrestling. Who's to say what's right and what's wrong? If there's a fan base, something's working, right? And that GCW fan base is rabid. They love Nick Gage, right? And if I'm in that environment, being me, being my authentic self, and they don't like me, if that makes me a heel, then please boo me. Please, let's do this. I mean, that feeling that I had when I laid out Nick Gage and took off that mask. Oh my God. It was only like a minute or two of reactions, but it was such like a roller coaster because like the people who didn't see my face and just saw me from behind thought I was Moxley. So they're cheering. The people in front of me are booing. Then I turn around, then they're booing. Then everyone's saying, F you. It was like, oh my God. Like I've been waiting, for something like that, a reaction like that for a long, long time.
Well, you did the whole Moxley like
Oh yeah.
mannerism, and you
Yeah.
really got them. You were dressed up as like a
Right.
druid or whatever, and then you reveal, you hit the DDT, then you reveal, and literally, and again, this is the pro in you. You knew where the hard cam was. You turn, you hit it, bam, and then it's like right there. It goes from like these cheers to these boos, and then it's like you pissed off a fan base. It's like, well, why is he attacking the king? Well,
Right.
that's the king. This guy don't know about deathmatch wrestling. I don't even think he's ever bled in his career. Is he going to come in here and do light tubes and barbed wire and glass? And is he going to take a pizza, cut it to that pretty face? I don't know. But why Nick Gage? Like, what about Nick Gage brought you to GCW? Like,
he's the face of GCW. Why go? Why not go for the main event champ? You know, I'm not here. I've already done the opening dark match. You know what I'm saying? I've been there, done that, baby. You know, I'm here to make, you know, I've already made a name for myself. I have a name, but I'm here to you know, continue that and grow on that and expand and grow as a person, as a performer. And listen, I don't need to prove I'm not doing a death match or a hardcore match to like prove myself or prove how tough I am. Like, I don't give a you know, I don't care. And listen, full disclosure, I am afraid. Nick Gage is no joke. There is absolutely nothing that's like unauthentic about Nick Gage. He is one tough son of a, but guess what? So am I. Maybe I haven't been in matches where I got hit with a light tube, but trust me, bro, I've been through way worse than that. And I think in wrestling, you know, every once in a while, it's okay to give the people what they want, and they want to see us fight. So that's what we're going to do.
And I think that's at its core what GCW best represents is a fight, right? Like, you went through the crowd and you're really provoking people and they're getting really close up to your face. And then you're going on Twitter, which I thought was genius, and you're calling yourself an ECW original.
I am an ECW original.
You are.
No one in GCW could say that. I did Nick Gage retire Tommy Dreamer? I believe no. I believe that was me. I did that.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, though, Mr. Cardona. You know, come July, you're gonna, you know, come late July, you're definitely gonna have your hands full. And I'm there. I'm going to be there. I'm gonna try to weasel my way into commentating that match because I want to commentate it. But I'm genuinely interested in seeing these because, you know, now that all these releases happen, you're going to get different dream match scenarios that you never knew existed before.
Right.
And to see you go to GCW and do something like this is interesting, and it shows the power that independent professional wrestling now yields. You know, for years it was let's talent poach and take from them, repackage a person into a completely different name, and then, you know, we'll put them on TV, and never speaking of the experience of which got them to the dance in the first place. But now it's like, we're here, we're doing this, you know, even Brian had a really good run in WWE, got released, made a name for himself on the indies, then came back, had a really cool run with the losing streak, which I thought was super fun. Then you guys became tag team champions, you know, and now he left again, and look what you guys have done. So there is this other world out there that can really shape and show people, hey, you don't need to go to one place to do it. And I'm really excited to see what you're going to do there. Now, what about Impact? What's going on with that? Are you contracted there? Are you a full-time guy there, or are you allowed to continue to move on? And because you also did a small little stint in AEW, like, what's going on in the world?
Another term I hate is free agent, but I guess in theory I am. I don't have an Impact contract, so I could do whatever I want. I love Impact. I love the opportunities that I get there. I love how they treat me there. I love that, you know, I feel important there. I feel like I matter there. And even, you know, I use the hashtag always ready. I was called the day before a pay-per-view, like, hey, can you be here tomorrow? I said, well, yeah. Luckily I was already tan. I was in the middle of getting a nice pump at the gym. And then I wrestled on pay-per-view. And ever since then, that's been like, Impact is a great place, and I will continue to go there. For as long as they continue to have me there, because it's a lot of fun and it's a great creative outlet. I got to wrestle Brian there, and like, there was no agent or producer saying like, well, you can't do this move or you can't go on the floor. So like, it was so much fun. And that's a very important word, is fun. And I've been having a lot of fun in Impact.
So besides not saying you can't do this or you can't do that, what does a company like Impact allow you to do that other promotions didn't?
Well, right away, like Impact, like they recognize, like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about with merch. I've been on phone calls with Impact about like potential merch. I don't even have a real job at the company, but just the fact that I get like, listen, they're not listening and saying whatever he says is what we got to do, but they're listening at least, and we're having a conversation. I feel like I can contribute more than just bell to bell for any company. And I feel like Impact recognizes that. And I love to just help out. I listen, like if I tell them to do something, I'm not saying they should, but it's cool that they at least like, hey, what do you think about this? And I like, just being appreciated.
I think everybody does,
Sure.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
that's cool, man. So what about this? Like now that like COVID restrictions are decreasing and like a lot of indie shows are starting to come up, would you ever or do you ever, because you keep your relationship very private, which is cool, but would you ever team up with Chelsea to do some intergender tag matches or what, or do you guys like to keep Matt and Chelsea just Matt and Chelsea, and instead of Matt and Chelsea the wrestlers, it's just Matt and Chelsea the couple? Like
Yeah. I
would
mean,
you
I
ever
would say
toy
like
with that?
never say never, but I do like keeping it separate. Like I don't, obviously this is what we do for a living. It comes up in our everyday life in our conversation, but I don't give a about her storyline ideas, or if some girl's wearing pink and she wore pink and now there's like Twitter drama. I don't give a, so I like, and her as well. We like to keep that stuff separate. I'm not saying I will never team with her, because never say never in wrestling, but that's not like my plan is to go up and down the East Coast team with Chelsea Green. Like, no, that's not my plan at all. And I'm sure she would say the exact same thing. So she can't even get mad at me for saying this.
Well, you're doing a podcast together where you go to amusement parks, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you, my cat just knocked my light over. Yeah. So we have the podcast Majorland, and we even argue on that about theme parks.
I never been to like Disneyland or anything like that. I never did that. Like I
You
don't.
might hate it. You might hate it.
Well, that's the thing. I've never really seen the appeal as a kid. I never even liked the Disney movies.
Right.
I remember having a conversation with Amanda and John about Disney movies, and they were like, "What? You never?
Yeah.
What? How do you not?" So then, like, they gave me like all these Disney movies, and I started watching them, and I was like, "I don't get it."
Yeah. So
Like,
I think, for me, the theme parks are a lot like collecting figures, where there's a lot of nostalgia behind it because I went as a kid. But also, like, I can totally understand if you said, oh, I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't like the lines. I don't like all these people. I don't like the heat. Like, listen, I get it. But I feel like I do it the right way, because like I listen to podcasts about it. I read up on it. So there's definitely like tips and tricks that I've learned. And of course, there's like the classic rides that I did as a kid. But then there's like these new state of the art rides. And listen, I'm not sitting on a Friday night watching Aladdin, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sitting there watching these classic animated films, but I will go to the park and drink a lot and ride some rides.
okay, so give me a breakdown. If I did want to do this, right? Or if I said to you, "Yo, Matt, I'm gonna be in Florida. Let's go. Where are you taking me? What am I doing? Like, how are you going to guide me where I'm not going to look at you and be like, get me out of here now? Like,
I
what
think
are we doing?
I think I would ease you in by going to Universal Studios, which has a more like, I don't want to say adult feel, but there's definitely less kiddie stuff, so you can ride like Transformers, or like a Simpsons ride, and you go into Moe's and drink like a Duff beer, or, like stuff like that, or like the Harry Potter stuff's really cool. Listen, I'm not going to go take you and buy a wand and do the interactive wand. We're not going to do that. We'll skip that maybe. But like, I think that's a good place to ease into it.
Okay, cool, man. Well, if we ever do decide to do this, I'm
Yeah.
down, man. Transformer ride sounds cool. Going
Yeah.
to Simpsons Land. Is it called Simpsons Land? Is that what
I
it
think maybe
is?
Krusty Land or whatever. But it's like a whole Simpsons area. Yeah.
I want the donut. That's
They
what
have
I
the
want to eat.
they
They
have the
have the.
donut. Yeah.
All right, great. I'm
The
looking
donut's
forward to
there.
it. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we'll even wear matching cutoff T-shirts.
So that's, I don't wear cutoff shirts to the theme park.
Really? Why?
I don't.
You don't want to show
Eight,
off the delts?
don't want to get recognized. Don't want tan lines.
Okay.
There you go.
There's a method to the madness.
That's right.
And I respect it, brother. Listen, Matt, I could continue to talk to you all day, but we're going to cap it here.
Okay.
When my co-host comes back from vacation, I would love to have you guys poly it up as well and
Sure.
just hang out.
Hell yeah.
You're the best, dude, for real. So please plug everything that you need to plug right now.
Oh, God, there's so much to plug, so I'll keep it short. Just go to @the_Matt_Cardona on Twitter and Instagram, and through that you'll see all the bullshit that I have to plug, because I have another hour just plugging everything. So just go to @the_Matt_Cardona on Twitter and Instagram, and listen to the Major Wrestling Rap podcast. There's so much. So I'm sure you'll find me posting something, whether it be theme parks or weightlifting stuff or PBR beer or figures, whatever, cats, dogs. There's so much. But just go to the Matt Cardona on Twitter and Instagram.
You're an interesting dude, man. I appreciate just, chopping it up with you and picking your brain a little bit. And at the end of this, I'm going to send you pictures of everything that I have of Motu that's just in its shipping boxes, because I have yet to open it up. So all you're going to see is just
I'm not a He-Man guy.
cases of just brown cardboard.
Yeah, like I appreciate it, and I'm glad I'm not a He-Man guy, because like I know the value on some of that stuff, and now with Super 7 making so much cool stuff, and Mattel, it's just so much that I don't want to get into. Like I already have enough vices with Ghostbusters and Turtles and Star Wars and wrestling. I don't need He-Man,
But again, they're all retro in that stuff now.
I know.
So you're getting all like the retro stuff. You're gonna get a proton pack. That they're gonna retro proton pack.
The problem is here's how sick I am. Like I already have, for instance, the Kenner Real Ghostbusters proton pack. I already have it. Like, of course, I had it as a kid. This one that I have now is mint. I got a couple years ago. I put my own stickers on it. It's not like some childhood beat up one on eBay. It's mint. But if Hasbro re-releases one, I'm gonna buy it. 100%.
I mean, they have that case kit that like they capture the ghosts in. Yeah, the trap. Yeah. They just released that.
I know, bro. I have too much, way too much. Chelsea says I'm a hoarder. I don't know if I'm a hoarder, but I'm borderline.
Hey, listen, as long as it doesn't affect and bleed out to like the actual living space of the house where it's yours and the cats, you're good.
Right. That's right. The house is pretty normal if the toy room and office doors are shut. Maybe if you went to the bar area, it might be a little weird because I have like a life-size Han Solo and Carbonite, but it's okay.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh man, Matt, you got to send me pictures for real. I definitely want to see stuff. Again, I appreciate.
I wasn't home when that got delivered. Chelsea was pretty pissed off. Yeah.
I remember you went on social media and she kind of was pissed off about getting some Macho Man Slim Jim cardboard.
I got the cardboard display that was in like 7-Eleven. It's this giant Macho Man, and then of course I had to go travel all through Orlando because I needed actual Slim Jims to go in it. And I needed like the ones that had like the Macho Man on the package. That's just regular Slim Jims. I'm driving all over Orlando looking for these Macho Man Slim Jims that have gone bad, and it's just sitting in my garage.
That's it. Just keep them there. Let them look good.
Maybe one day I'll have a bigger house, and that's kind of like my one day. That's why I keep things in the garage. We'll one day have a bigger room to display it.
You will. You might even have a tiny house where you can just put all this stuff in a tiny house.
Yeah, because talk about FOMO. If I try to look for that thing in 5 years, where the am I going to find that? You get it now.
I wouldn't even know that is even a collectible to collect like cardboard. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I see people collecting Castle Grayskull vintage boxes or like the Slime Pit Hordak boxes. And I'm like, why are you paying hundreds of dollars for boxes?
It's wild, dude. It's a wild, wild time.
It's insane. Every time something comes to my mother's house, she'll go, more of your junk has arrived.
Yes.
She says your has arrived.
Right,
get it out of here soon. But Matt, I appreciate you, brother, for real, man. Thank you for tapping in and hanging out with me today.
That was fun, dude. I appreciate it.